Savadi. We are now arriving in Laos. Our destination, Luang Prabang, the ancient royal capital and a UNESCO site village. Our bus was too big for the village, so our main transportation in and out was by jumbo. Our UNESCO hotel was very nice and wonderfully close to the night and morning markets. Our local guide, Lao, took us on a nice walking tour of the village while sharing fascinating stories of its royal history. Fun fact, Lao didn't have a known birth date and got to choose his own when he started school. A special place we stopped at? Big Brother Mouse. We met with Laotian students to converse in English. Way cool. Now to experience the Mekong River, the Pak U Cave, and the Muanghem village. Lao shared that the Mekong River has 1,000 species of fish and up to 800-pound catfish. Pak U Cave. It is believed that the Lao people first entered the caves in the middle of the 8th century. In the 16th century, Buddhism was adopted and annual pilgrimages began. And we added our own Buddha. Muanghem Village. Just a short climb up to the village, passing first through their temple grounds and conversing with novice monks. Then on to the village itself. Here we got to learn to make dried river grass, a local staple. Fun story? Until this demonstration, I would see these lovely packages in the market that I thought were fabric.
This is like what she said. She sent it to town. A small piece like this, 5,000 kip. I think this is will be more.
Rounding off our visit, playing bocce ball with the village champion. Back on the boat, we enjoyed samples of seagrass and local beer. It was a truly beautiful day, living the life of a Laotian, starting with the daily morning ritual of giving alms to the monks. For the people, it sets up their day for blessings. For the monks, it provides their nourishment for the day, along with providing the people an opportunity to be blessed in giving. When we had given all our rice, we stood back and observed, then stopped at the temple with additional provisions. This ritual is followed by a traditional Lao breakfast. Now it's time to shop in the morning market for the afternoon lunch in a Hmong village.
Sir.
McNow.
Sir. Khao Pun. Yeah. Be next. Okay. Sir. Galampi.
You can have that one.
The locals have no need for refrigeration, as fresh food is purchased daily in the morning market. And up the mountain we go to the Hmong village, where we are greeted by the village leaders. and curious children. Some of our travel money has been used to install electricity, toilets, and water towers, paint interior and exterior of buildings, and build a school. The visit with the school was very special. Next stop was to meet their local shaman in her home. She also demonstrated how she makes moonshine and shared samples with us. Then an amazing treat. The village chief shared their New Year blessing dance. Followed by a traditional village lunch. In the meantime, Chef Fred prepared a U.S. dish as a gift for the village leaders. He did a great job making shrimp scampi over wood fire. Kapjai lai lai. We got back in time for a foot massage and to enjoy the night market and street food. Goodbye now to the charming Luang Prabang. Welcome the big city experience in Vientiane, the capital of Laos. We had a comfortable room in the beautiful hotel Sabadi Alao. Almost immediately, we were whisked off to a host family dinner. The oldest son delighted us with snacks and conversation, then guided us to the kitchen.
Food. The first one is chicken, and the second one we would cook papaya salad.
At the table, Mom tied a blessing string on each of our wrists. Fun note, Fred and I completed the dancing with some swing. Kapjai lai lai. Refreshing sleep and off to the Sisaket Museum. Did you know there are numerous Buddha positions? The day you were born on has a dedicated Buddha. The info here was found on the internet. Here, we were fortunate to have an open discussion with a monk. He shared about his lifestyle, clothing, and his pursuit of enlightenment. We thanked him with an offering. At the Cope Center, we learned about the ongoing devastating effect of years of cluster bombs dropped during the Vietnam War, which locals refer to as the American War. Approximately 78 million live bombs were left behind. The majority are buried under people's homes or in their farmland. 40% of the victims in the last decade have been children. This center provides information, support, and prosthetics. We happened to be in Vientiane during the Luang Festival, held at the most important religious monument in Laos, the Golden Stupa. Respectfully dressing in Lao fashion, we joined the crowds to enter the temple grounds. Worshippers make a pilgrimage to this event at least once in their lifetime. We chose this opportunity to honor Alan E. Lewis, chairman of Grand Circle Corporation, who passed during our trip. Quoted from his son and daughter, "Dad leaves behind a legacy of giving back to help change people's lives and change the earth we share. He believed in the transformative power of travel, in fostering deep connections with other cultures, showing the real deal, and encouraging the moments of epiphany that lie just outside of one's comfort zone. To Dad, this was never simply the travel business. He believed he was in the business of changing people's lives. Thank you, Alan, for all the travel experiences you have made possible for us." A solemn yet significant closing to our visit in Laos.
Yellowstone National Park is a nearly 3,500 square mile wilderness recreational area atop a volcanic hotspot. Mostly in Wyoming, the park spreads into parts of Montana and Idaho. Yellowstone features dramatic canyons, alpine rivers, lush forests, hot springs, and gushing geysers, including its most famous Old Faithful. It's also home to hundreds of animal species, including bears, wolves, bison, elk, antelope, and moose. Welcome to Yellowstone. The landscapes are breathtaking. However, we were so used to seeing pictures of just the animals of Yellowstone that we had no idea of how beautiful the landscapes were, especially with the snow, which added a dramatic quality. It was hard to imagine that we would be seeing rushing water, sometimes even frozen. Just a few feet away, small geysers erupting with temperatures well over boiling. Jimmy and I had never been to Yellowstone before, so we didn't know exactly what to expect. The History Channel does a great job showing the animals strolling around and geysers erupting, causing lots of steam in this surreal place that time forgot. It's truly hard to imagine walking within several feet of 2,000-pound bison, who are so quiet when they walk, and they catch you by surprise when they walk on the sidewalk, and if you aren't careful, you could walk with them, like several people we saw. But remember, Yellowstone is not a petting zoo, and you can get injured or killed. Famous geysers like Old Faithful explode into the air and are powered by the supervolcano. There are 4 different types of geothermal features in Yellowstone: geysers, hot springs, mud pots, and fumaroles. Yellowstone has the most extraordinary collection of hot springs, geysers, mud pots, and fumaroles on Earth. More than 10,000 hydrothermal features are found here, of which more than 500 are geysers. Yellowstone sits on top of one of the world's largest volcanoes, the Yellowstone caldera, left behind by an eruption 640,000 years ago, and is approximately 1,000 square miles. In 1872, Ulysses S. Grant signed the Yellowstone Park Act, creating the world's first national park. There are 5 entrances. However, be careful, as it seems that Yellowstone creates its own weather and can change on a dime. One note of caution: cell phone service and Wi-Fi is very sketchy in several of the areas, so be prepared. But despite these inconveniences, plan on having a wonderful time, and don't forget your camera, because there is a Kodak moment at every turn.
The Great Lakes are the largest group of freshwater lakes on Earth. These lakes can be dangerous. Some remnants can still be seen from the 6,000 shipwrecks that have occurred over the years. I live in Kincardine in Bruce County. Outlined in red on the map, from the shore in front of my house, it is between 100 kilometers and 135 kilometers across to the shore of Michigan. The county includes the Bruce Peninsula, which extends into Lake Huron and separates it from Georgian Bay. The lighthouses of Bruce County filled an essential need. Let's look at the lighthouses of the Bruce. Starting in my hometown of Kincardine. It was settled in the mid-1800s by settlers who traveled here by boat. This lighthouse is located just a stone's throw away from the busy main street of Kincardine. After a climb up to the light, we have a bird's eye view of the harbor. In Kincardine, the hazards of the trip are remembered by the Phantom Piper, who reenacts the arrival of one family. According to the legend, back in 1856, on a cold October day, a small vessel left the port of Goderich, 50 kilometers to the south, carrying a family from the Isle of Skye in Scotland. It became lost in a storm as it neared Kincardine. Aboard the boat, Donald Sinclair, fearing for his family, fetched his pipes and began playing a lament. The sound carried across to the land, where another piper heard and played another lament in return. The captain of the boat, hearing the drone of the pipes, headed for shore, and the vessel arrived safely. The first light established here was a fixed red light at the end of the North Pier in 1874. It later served as a front range light. In 1881, the current building was completed, including a house for the lightkeeper. It serves as both a coast lake light and the rear range light. A range consists of two lights or buoys that provide the direction in which to sail when they are lined up, in this case, to avoid the breakwater to the north. The town of Kincardine was originally settled in 1848. One of the founders, Alan Cameron, built a log cabin and turned it into a hotel, remembered today by the historic Paddy Walker House, restored by a local group. Point Clark, to the south of Kincardine, is one of 6 Empire lighthouses that were built starting in 1855. At that time, commercial shipping traffic was increasing on the Great Lakes. Navigation aids like lighthouses were necessary for safety. Construction was hampered by the loss of supplies from boats sinking and due to supplies being swept overboard during storms. Another factor threatening bankruptcy of the construction company was difficulty and increasing cost obtaining the lighting apparatus due to high demand for the Fresnel lenses made in Paris, France. Hi.
Hi.
I'm looking for a tour.
Okay, well, we run tours every 30 minutes.
Okay.
And our prices are just down here, so our next
Good.
one's going to be at $230.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Well, I think I'll take one. Thank you.
All right.
These are some examples of the Fresnel lens design. The Fresnel lens was basically several individual lenses stacked, one on top of each other. These diagrams demonstrate how the lens functioned, gathering and concentrating light to a narrow beam so it could be seen at a greater distance. When we entered the small museum in what was the lighthouse keeper's house, we were welcomed by these images of past lighthouse keepers. These short histories are remembrances of the ships that were lost in the area. While visiting the Point Clark Lighthouse, I was surprised to learn of an underwater ridge going across Lake Huron. These bathysphere images, showing the depth of water in Lake Huron, indicate where it was. At some time in the distant past, it was above water, and it was used by First Nations hunters, as indicated by these hunting hides or campsites that were photographed by scuba divers. Point Clark was more of a cottage community. But has recently developed and grown into a residential suburb of Kincardine. Point Clark and Kincardine are only 20 kilometers apart. The next lighthouse to the north is on Chantry Island, about 45 kilometers north of Kincardine, and 1 kilometer offshore from the town of Southampton. In Southampton, the main street leads us to the beach, from where we can see Chantry Island and the lighthouse. This early undated image with fishing boats is probably from the early 1900s. Visits to the island are possible only by one licensed tour company. We traveled to it on this boat with a guide. It is operated by a volunteer group who refurbished and maintain the lighthouse, although the light is owned and operated by the Canadian Coast Guard. The Chantry Island Lighthouse, completed in 1859, is another of the Empire lighthouses. The island on which it is located is now a bird sanctuary, home to double-crested cormorants, great egrets, great blue herons, and seagulls. Touring the lighthouse keeper's accommodation, I was glad I did not live in that era. Southampton is located on the territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as is the entire Bruce Peninsula. At the fur trading post established here in 1818, Ojibwe hunters traded furs to European and Métis before the area was settled by Europeans around 1848. Métis were people of mixed Indigenous and European background. It's about 100 kilometers from Southampton up to Tobermory. We'll zoom in on the town so we can see the two harbors there. Big Tub highlighted in blue, and Little Tub in yellow. Little Tub Harbor, the commercial harbor, appropriately enough, is smaller than Big Tub Harbor, which has cottages on most of its shore. The lighthouse at Big Tub is much smaller than the ones already seen. It is located at the entrance to Big Tub on a rocky point. It is a bay and harbor that I have often used for overnight anchorage. From the lighthouse, looking towards the end of the bay, we can see where the tour boats are headed to see underwater wrecks in the crystal clear water. This aerial view shows the two wrecks here. These view through the glass bottom show the hull of the sweepstake and its hold. Several tour companies provide glass bottom boats that cruise over the shipwrecks in Big Tub as well as other locations. Flowerpot Island, so named due to the unique natural pillars found there, can also be visited by these boat tours. For camping, hiking the walking paths, and visiting the light station. There was a wooden lighthouse there in 1898, but it was replaced in 1968 with the current pyramidal steel tower topped by a light. Little Tub Harbor in Tobermory is the commercial harbor, but commercial fishing boats like this, seen in 2011, are no longer berthed here, since the Saugeen Ojibwe First Nation reclaimed their treaty fishing rights around the Bruce Peninsula. It is used by recreational sailors, tour boats to the wrecks, and dive boats that take scuba divers to locations in the National Marine Park. This harbor was useful when I sailed through here to refuel, both the boat and the crew. The crow's nest for fish and chips and beer, and the sweet shop for dessert. In order to see our next lighthouse on Cove Island, we need to take the Chi-Chi Mound Ferry to Manitoulin Island, the largest freshwater island in the world, or go to it on our own boat. The Chi-Chi Mound Ferry has its terminus in Little Tub Harbor. The ferry operates from mid-May to mid-October between Tobermory and South Baymouth on Manitoulin Island. The Chi-Chi Mound makes the 40-kilometer trip in about 1 hour and 45 minutes, 3 times each day during peak season. I mentioned Flowerpot Island previously. You can see where it is located on this map, and also Cove Island, where the next lighthouse is located. The Chi-Chi Mound route passes within a couple of kilometers of it. While sailing in the area, I was able to anchor near the island with my friend George for a couple of hours on a calm day, and we took a dinghy to the island to explore, but we couldn't enter the lighthouse. The Cabot Head Lighthouse on the northeast tip of the Bruce Peninsula is well off the beaten track. It marks a safe harbor called Wingfield Basin, with a range that marks a narrow entrance between the buoys you can see here. It was originally built in 1896. In 1968, it was demolished and replaced with the present automatic light. It has been under renovation by a volunteer group called Friends of Cabot Head Lighthouse, but it has been closed indefinitely for a number of years. My last opportunity to visit it was about 10 years ago, when we were able to tour the museum and walk the trails in the adjoining nature preserve. Heading down the east side of the Bruce Peninsula, our next lighthouse is at Lion's Head. It is a small community, halfway up the Bruce Peninsula, and also halfway between the equator and the North Pole on the 45th parallel. There is a well-protected harbor and an attractive beach and park for families. In the background is the Niagara Escarpment, with the lion's profile in the limestone rock formation, for which the town is named. This plaque, mounted on the lighthouse, remembers the last lighthouse keeper on the Great Lakes. On the south shore of this bay, the Bruce Trail leads us to a geological feature called the Pothole. On one of our visits, we did the short but somewhat rugged hike to explore it. The white blazes mark the main trail. The blue blazes mark side trails like this one. From a hole in the side of the rock face, I rotated the camera up to see the other hole in the top of the rock. From a lookout nearby, we could see the entrance to the bay. Cape Croker is a few miles south of Lion's Head. The drive into it was on land of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. Through woods for several kilometers. To a remote rocky point. It was the first of this design, and also the first to have an electrically operated Fresnel light and a foghorn. I could find no images of the original wooden lighthouse that was built in 1898. This is the Cape Croker Lighthouse as it was in 1934. The current lighthouse, built on this concrete tower, was completed in 1902. From the rocky shoreline, we can see Hay Island and the eastern shore of Owen Sound Bay. This is Griffith Island, where our last lighthouse is located. As you saw, Griffith Island is close to Cape Croker, but we had to drive around Colpoys Bay and through the town of Wyerton to get a closer view of the island. Access to the Griffith Island Lighthouse is restricted because the island is privately owned by the Griffith Island Club as a social club for hunting, target shooting, and with a private runway and ferry service. As a result, the images here were all taken from the internet. The lighthouse and keeper's house were finished in 1857, as seen in this early photograph. It was the third of the 6 imperial lighthouses. It had a Fresnel lens with a fixed white light. Starting at the southernmost lighthouse in Point Clark and following the lighthouse trail around the coast of Bruce County is a pleasant trip. It is a short distance going up the shore of Lake Huron from Point Clark to Kincardine. And then on to Southampton, where a boat trip is available to Chantry Island with its lighthouse. After that, it's a long drive up the Bruce Peninsula to Tobermory, where the Big Tub Lighthouse is located. At this point, Highway 6 that we have been following turns into a ferry ride on the Chichimoun, across to Manitoulin Island. From the ferry, Cove Island Lighthouse can be seen. From Tobermory, there is a roundabout route over to the east side of the Bruce Peninsula, and up to its northeast corner, where the Capit Head Lighthouse is located at Wingfield Basin. Working our way down the shore of Georgian Bay, we arrive at the next lighthouse at Lion's Head. And a little further south, the lighthouse at Cape Croker. And then Griffith Island. As a side note, in my research, I read that these lighthouses were called imperial lighthouses in an effort by the colony of Canada to have the government of the British Empire pay for them. Bureaucracy and politics are eternal, I guess. We have never tired of visiting these spots over a number of years. We love this little piece of paradise, and I'm happy to be able to share it with you.
Derinkuyu is one of the best preserved underground cities in the Cappadocia region of Turkey. There are approximately 36 of these type of cities that have been discovered. The underground cities started around the 8th and 7th century BC by the Phrygians. The Phrygians were an ancient Indo-European speaking people who inhabited central western Anatolia, modern-day Turkey, in antiquity. You may have heard of at least one of the Phrygians. He was King Midas with his curse of the Golden Touch. Due to the volcanic action 3 to 9 million years ago, the area was covered with volcanic ash called tuff. Tuff is a light porous rock composed mostly of volcanic ash, and it's easily to carve through. I can somewhat imagine when the alarm for the attack sounded, people went into the underground city just like they did with the time machine, all filing in for their protection. The underground city of Derinkuyu was built later. The Christians, who weren't quite accepted yet, built it during the Byzantine era, looking for freedom from religious persecution and the Arab-Byzantine Wars of 780 to 1180 AD. It provided a safe haven for them and their livestock. The city could house up to 2,000 families, and it was spread out over 1.5 square miles with 8 levels going down 197 feet. The first 2 levels were for the schools, churches, kitchens, pantries, dining rooms, wine cellars, and stables. Can't imagine that. Many passageways were short and narrow, allegedly to slow down any invaders who may have gotten into the city. There were round millstone doors that could be closed during an attack and wedged so that they could only be opened from the inside. Hiding places, living quarters, weapons, and tunnels to other cities were on the 3rd and 4th floors. One tunnel on the 3rd floor reached another underground city 5 miles away. Imagine how they figured that out. On the lower floors were water wells, secret escape shafts, meeting halls, confession places, graves, and air shafts. But I still wonder what they did with the waste. The interest in ancient history and unique attraction has made Derinkuyu a popular stop in the Cappadocia region. The food, people, and lodging were absolutely outstanding. If you ever get a chance to visit Turkey, this is a must-stop on your adventure. Derinkuyu is one of the best preserved underground cities in the Cappadocia region of Turkey. There are approximately 36 of these type of cities that have been discovered. The underground cities started around the 8th and 7th century BC by the Phrygians. The Phrygians were an ancient Indo-European speaking people who inhabited central western Anatolia, modern-day Turkey, in antiquity. You may have heard of at least one of the Phrygians. He was King Midas with his curse of the golden touch. Due to the volcanic action 3 to 9 million years ago, the area was covered with volcanic ash called tuff. Tuff is a light porous rock composed mostly of volcanic ash, and it's easily to carve through. I can somewhat imagine when the alarm for the attack sounded, people went into the underground city just like they did with the time machine, all filing in for their protection. The underground city of Derinkuyu was built later. The Christians, who weren't quite accepted yet, built it during the Byzantine era, looking for freedom from religious persecution and the Arab-Byzantine Wars of 780 to 1180 AD. It provided a safe haven for them and their livestock. The city could house up to 2,000 families, and it was spread out over 1.5 square miles with 8 levels going down 197 feet. The first 2 levels were for the schools, churches, kitchens, pantries, dining rooms, wine cellars, and stables. Can't imagine that. Many passageways were short and narrow, allegedly to slow down any invaders who may have gotten into the city. There were round millstone doors that could be closed during an attack and wedged so that they could only be opened from the inside. Hiding places, living quarters, weapons, and tunnels to other cities were on the 3rd and 4th floors. One tunnel on the 3rd floor reached another underground city 5 miles away. Imagine how they figured that out. On the lower floors were water wells, secret escape shafts, meeting halls, confession places, graves, and air shafts. But I still wonder what they did with the waste. The interest in ancient history and unique attraction has made Derinkuyu a popular stop in the Cappadocia region. The food, people, and lodging were absolutely outstanding. If you ever get a chance to visit Turkey, this is a must-stop on your adventure.